Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Overcome 10 Reporting Challenges for Oracle HCM Cloud. My name is Stacy Jackson, and I will be moderating today's call. Just want to introduce you to today's speakers. We have Sid Goel, HR Analytics Architect and founding partner of KPIPartners. Sid has HR reporting project expertise with Wells Fargo, Progressive Insurance, and many others. We also have Ron Cruz, HR Analytics Specialist, joining us. Ron is a Tableau expert and has experience with HR reporting projects at Symantec, among others. The webinar logistics for today's call. As you probably noticed, all of the attendees have joined in muted session status, but you may send questions at any time via the chat function. You can post to everyone or send directly to me, Stacy Jackson, at any time. We'll be pausing for Q&A between both speakers' sessions and again at the end for a wrap up on any questions you may have. The session will be recorded and we'll send you a link to the recording once it's published online. Finally, you have to stay till the end if you want to hear who wins this awesome Apple Watch that KPIPartners is giving away. So onto the agenda. Our agenda today includes the introductions, key reporting requirements for Oracle HCM Cloud customers, Oracle HCM Cloud OTBI limitations, an insurance company and global manufacturer case studies, a demo of how HR professionals can overcome the 10 challenges that we'll be discussing, time for Q&A, and then again, the announcement of the Apple Watch winner. Now I'll hand over the show to Sid.
Hi, thanks very much, Stacy. Appreciate it. So KPI, briefly who we are, we're a boutique analytics company founded in 2006 with 300 plus consultants. We focus 100% on analytics with both an on-site and offshore presence. We have deep expertise in different analytics technologies, but also source systems like Oracle HCM Cloud, EBS, and so on. We were recognized by Gartner for the second time in 2019 as one of the top data and analytics service providers. So we're very honored, and of course, honored with the customers that we are proud to serve. What we do from a technology stack perspective, we focus on the dominant tools out there, from Tableau, which will be the demo today, along with Oracle BI, Power BI, and so on the front end side, different ETL technologies, databases, from traditional databases like Oracle to newer cloud database platforms like Snowflake, and of course the different cloud options that customers have. So our experience across a variety of customers, the first three are actually HCM Cloud ones. Intuitive Surgical, a medical devices company in California, where we implemented the solution we'll be showing you today from an HCM Cloud, as well as an insurance company with about 25,000 employees, as well as a global manufacturer with 65,000 employees, as well as companies like Mastech, Geico, and so on, which have been on a mixture of legacy Oracle ERP solutions like EBS and PeopleSoft, along with newer things like Geico had with Taleo Recruiting, and so on. So we have very broad expertise in HR source systems and how to deliver analytical value to HR teams at Fortune 500 companies. So what are the key requirements? So what we hear from VPs of HR is that certainly transactional systems are critical, but from an analytical perspective, they focus on the past, what's already happened. Employees, particularly in this economy, are the number one asset. HR needs the ability to be proactive and not reactive. So you invariably need information from not just HCM Cloud, but also from other systems such as time reporting systems, government data in some cases, industry trends, training data, employee survey data, all of those things. And ultimately, what companies are telling us is that they want to transition from purely transactional reporting, even dashboards, to also AI type prediction, AI type solutions for HR. So in fact, Gartner echoes this view that despite significant potential applicability of AI to HR processes, a number of factors inhibit this today: internal resistance, organizational readiness, legislation. Privacy is obviously a critical requirement, but they are predicting that by 2023, nearly half of HR-related AI projects that are many of them in pilot phases will progress to full enterprise deployment. So the solution we're going to be showing you today is also going to be that forward-looking piece as well. Basically, what we see when we talk to HCM customers, we see three types of reporting requirements. One is operational reporting, headcount reporting, regulatory reporting, and so on. And then management reporting, which can be a combination of operational reporting, but also things like budget versus actual reporting for payroll costs. Management, both line of business and HR, wants to know more cross-subject area things. Are we truly paying for performance? How long do recruits stay at our company based on the referral source? Are internal referrals truly better in terms of tenure? And that's cross-subject or cross-data source reporting. And then getting into that predictive and AI world, predictive employees that are at risk of leaving. So predict candidates that should be hired based on past data and things like that. So those are the three types of reporting requirements that we see from customers. So so HCM Cloud customers, most of them, in fact, I don't even think it's an option, use OTBI as their default reporting solution, and it's a good solution. Believe me, it's a much better solution that Oracle's had in the past for their different HCM products. So it comes with it. It comes with, sorry, I shouldn't have 13 question mark. It's probably closer to 40 or 50 subject areas, reporting subject areas out of the box. It's real time, and it inherits HCM security out of the box. But what we hear from customers is that the OTBI reporting is really like a walled garden. What that means is that as long as I stay within the garden, which is HCM Cloud, it's a beautiful place, right? With OTBI, I can do, I don't have to worry about security. I get really good transactional reporting. But what customers tell us is, of course, it's not sufficient to be within the walled garden only. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as to what that means, why customers feel like they're a little bit constrained with OTBI. So, in fact, 10 issues that we've seen from customers. One is cross-subject area reporting. It's not an easy thing to do. So an example is, pay for performance, where I need to look at payroll information and performance data, recruiting effectiveness that I talked about. Customers want to combine data typically in two places. If it's data that I need on an ongoing basis, for instance, payroll budget data, I would want to bring that in at the database level and have that available to me. So whether that's coming from my financial system or even a spreadsheet, I want that in one place, integrated and so on. Also, a lot of customers want to look at how much they're paying people versus on what the Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers are for a particular job code and location. And that's something you really can't very easily do. You can, of course, you have to bring the data into HCM and then try to. But since Oracle really doesn't give you the ability to expand what you report off of, even if you bring it in, you're going to have a tough time reporting off of it. So that's not really much of an option. The second thing, best-of-breed modern BI tools have the ability to combine data at the reporting level, right? But you can't do that either with an OTBI. So you can do that in leading BI tools like Tableau and so on. Another key requirement is data snapshots. So, for instance, one wants the ability to look at things like headcount and trend that number. So I want to see, typically at month end, I would like to see what my headcount was, what my terminations were for that particular month, and so on. that's something that OTBI doesn't do very easily. We hear this sometimes. So the global manufacturer with 65,000 employees, they said 25,000 rows is a big issue for them. Okay, so they said, we do have some data pulls where we need, so of course they can break it up into 3 reports, but it's just inconvenient. They've also, we've also heard customers say that, when you've got complex queries, the queries run fairly slow because, again, you're querying a transactional system which is designed for transaction performance and not for reporting performance. The other thing is that you can't touch that subject area that Oracle provides. So you can't, if you have a different definition of headcount, you're excluding contingent workers and excluding, people that joined after a certain date or whatever your headcount metric is. In fact, at Wells Fargo, there were 8 divisions, and each division had their own version of a headcount, own definition of headcount. From the retail side to the investment banking side, it took them almost 20 days to even agree on a standard headcount metric. But even when they agreed on it, they still wanted the ability to report it the way they wanted to report it, applicable to their business. Number 7, OTBI is a good tool, but it is just not a leading tool from a visualization perspective. Anyone who's used the Tableaus, the Power BIs, even Oracle's own DV tool will understand that you are not going to get the kind of visualizations that people expect. And visualizations are no longer, in our experience, they're not optional. It essentially comes down to, the analogy I use is that you're in a Tesla world right now. And so the benchmark for visualizations, just like for cars now from a user experience, is the Tesla. If you've ever driven in one, you go, wow, this is really something. And, internal combustion cars are great. I have one myself, but the benchmark for the driving experience has shifted to Teslas, and I would say the same thing. Visualization is something that users expect and will increasingly demand of the team supporting HCM. You can also change the subject areas to make them simpler. So, some customers have told us that, look, it's just too complicated, too many columns, and I have to do a lot of user training. If you have a solution that's outside of OTBI, you can customize to make it as simple as you'd like. The 9th one is the security roles are a little complicated to implement in terms of mapping HCM responsibilities. It is available out of the box, but we've heard from larger enterprise customers that it can be a bit complicated to figure all that out. Number 10 is OTBI does not expose all HCM type tables and columns, so you at times cannot do all the reporting that you want. And lastly is there is not a predictive analytic capability available out of the box from HCM Cloud. And to be honest, even if there was one, most organizations will want to customize that. So the demo Ron is going to be showing you, was done for a construction company, and a construction company, a large one, where the factors such as age was a huge factor. So 19-year-olds were far more likely to leave as compared to older. That factor may be less prevalent in other industries as compared to construction, for example. I wanted to, and so two case studies. We're not going to mention the customer names for confidentiality reasons, but global manufacturer that has 17 billion in revenue, 60,000 plus employees. They really were looking for a world-class reporting solution that overcame OTBI limitations. And so the solution you're going to see, the KPI Cloud Analytics for HCM Cloud, we implemented that out of the box. We extended it for learning management, succession, and performance management. And the business benefit was, we overcame 100% of OTBI limitations, better cross-functional, better visualizations, in their case, using Tableau, combined HCM and non-HCM data, and historical and HCM data reporting. And good news here was also that, this is a customer that was used to an existing data warehouse. So, the real-time thing can be a critical requirement. So some customers, we say, yeah, use OTBI for real-time reporting and then use the analytical solution for everything else. But in their case, their users were already used to a data warehouse with next-day reporting. So they've shifted probably about 90% of their reporting to Tableau in this case and not through OTBI. Another customer, Intuitive Surgical, in their case, was more of an integration requirement. So they wanted to integrate HCM, Taleo, and SAP data. But again, a lot of the same kind of benefits with the solution that you're going to see today. And then an insurance company, where they had a little bit more of a unique problem where they were gradually rolling out HCM Cloud. So they had, during the transition phase, while they moved off of EBS to HCM Cloud, they needed the ability to bring that data together in one place. And instead of loading all of their EBS data into HCM, which would be, the conversion cost would have been enormous, they brought it all into the data warehouse. And now as they're in a hybrid mode where certain regions are on HCM Cloud and other regions are on EBS, they can have a single place where HR users can have a global picture of payroll and headcount and all of those things. In this case, we implemented this on an Oracle stack. So before we start the demo, Stacy, any questions that people have sent in the chat window, or if people want to unmute and ask before we start the demo?
We don't have any questions right now through chat, so I say let's open it up to anyone who may have a question. Unmute.
So I think then let's save the questions till the end. So Ron, I'll turn it over to you from a demo perspective.
Excellent. Thank you, Sid. Let me go ahead and make myself presenter here. So this is the flow of what we're going to be doing in the demo, right? We're going to go through all these different sections and talk about what we're going to discuss. And the hire to retire scenario where we have within the analytics. And as I go through, I'll be talking about those limitations that Sid was bringing up in OTBI and how those are addressed. And how this becomes, the next gen, that modern BI paradigm that can really help you get to that next level about your organization. As you can see here, this is the executive summary. This is where executives can go and get a quick glance at how their organization is doing in one spot. Again, this is something that is very difficult to do with tools such as OTBI or, heaven forbid, Excel, right? That where, executive just wants to log in and see, hey, how am I doing overall, right? In this one place, you can see how you're doing with your employees, with your head count, how's your performance, how's your retention doing, what's your attrition, how's your compensation, where's your, absenteeism, how are you recruiting, what's open, what you need to open, how long are you taking to open it? A lot of these questions that are addressed throughout the analytics can be put together in one place, so that way people don't have to go in and do 20 clicks to figure out how their organizational health is doing. And obviously, any of the reports that are put out there can be put together to customize that thumbnail view of how your organization is doing at any one given time. To what's important to you. As we go to the landing page, we see the hire to retire ideal, right? The idea that HR is more than headcount and payroll, right? So we have everything from recruitment to when they're actually hired, how are they performing, how do I keep them, what am I paying them, what's my payroll, after they're leaving, how is their development going, their training, and all that. I'm going to go ahead and start with recruitment. That's obviously the beginning of the cycle. And for each of those sections you see here, we have another landing page where we give the users the ability to go into where they want to take a look at. Again, sort of owning that data journey that the users were going to go through. Right now, I'm going to go through my recruiter effectiveness, and bring up how my my recruiting managers are doing, right? Where do I have my open requisitions? How are they comparing to each other? What are my requisitions by recruiting manager? Which ones are taking a long time? How long does it actually take for that position to generally be filled, right? There's a lot of information here. And we try to use a lot of those, this modern analytics to discuss and give more insight. So for example, here you have your hires for a recruit, right? Who's doing the most work right now? You can see it's Kaori and Roger, but as I hover over, I can see Kaori is taking on more historically, currently, than Roger is. So I have a lot of work going in Kaori, and it's getting bigger. Maybe I want to see if I can take this some work off of France, or maybe Terrence. Terrence will probably be the right person to assign some more stuff to sort of free Kaori up, right? If you think about that kind of analytics, what that could mean to an organization that is used to just saying, so-and-so has this many requisitions open, you know, to be able to say, well, this so-and-so has this many requisitions open, but ramping down, this person has a lot and they're coming up. Maybe I want to offload that. Then you get to a point where analytics is helping you be proactive about issues rather than always being reactive, right? This is concept that we try to avoid, that we call the dead data concept, right? Where you find out about the problem after it happened. What we want to be able to do is enable people to find out before things happen. Again, we have more recruitment analytics, right? What are my open requisition status? You know, how long am I spending there? You know, in that recruitment activity lifecycle, who goes through what? And then clicking each of these changes all the data to be based on what you clicked on. Let's say that we've gone through then and we've hired somebody. Let's go ahead and take a look at our workforce analytics. And I'm going to go show you here something that it's the first three limitations, right? So if you think about what we just saw was more of a modern look at analytics. What we're going to be taking a look here is the first three limitations that Sid was talking about in OTBI, where you can't take snapshots and you can't combine HCM and non-HCM data. Well, here we see that in one page we can overcome those three, right? For example, this headcount versus snapshot versus budget, right? I mean, this headcount snapshot versus budget, each month we take a snapshot of your headcount, and then we say, okay, how does that compare to the actual budget? That's non-HCM data. So bringing this together helps people see, okay, how am I doing? Well, it looks like I was on target all my months, but during my retail spike in December, I exceeded it. I exceeded it by 8%. Maybe, you know, I want to take a look and see what happened here, right? We also do a year-over-year snapshot, so you can see, you know, it looks like every year I'm doing, you know, or every quarter I'm doing, you know, pretty well in keeping to my employee budget. Again, that's one of those things that you just can't do without doing a lot of Excel magic and a lot of other tools. And now that we've hired people, right, when we're taking a look here, let me go and show you something else here, right, that's been taken into account. We have the demographics, where you can see, you know, how your company spread is. We even have things, you know, that, you know, every HR manager needs, like a compa ratio by their tenure and, you know, organization. You know, who am I paying people what they should be paid or what's fair, you know, and does that, do I have spikes in places? Do I not? Now let's go into workflow force, right? So I have now, sorry, one more thing I want to show you here. And actually, this is an important one. This is what, you know, one of the things that Sid was talking about before was the inability to say, follow up on data. Right, the inability to cross your subject areas within OTBI. And, you know, a lot of people say, well, so what? If I'm looking at salary, I'm not going to stay at salary, right? But one of the things that really is a good example of being freed from that is this concept of For example, I have my existing salaries versus my new hire salaries, right, or my new hire offers. Am I hiring people at a higher rate and a higher cost than the people that are doing the job now? Again, that's not an answer you can get from OTBI. You'd have to do a lot of finagling to do that. So in this visualization, you see, okay, the purple is my new hire offers, my new hire offer, and the blue is my median existing salary. You can see in March I had a bit of a spike, right? What percentage of my jobs exceeded the average salary? These are the jobs where actually the offer exceeded the maximum salary. So these are the jobs that I really should take a look at because they're costing me more to fill than to keep, right? What offers are beyond the salary range, right? That kind of information is information you can put in your users' hands to help them make decisions that will help shape the company in different ways. Let's take a look after we've hired everybody and we've sort of seen how they've been paid. How do they perform, right? Here we have the, your typical performance, right? We have the 3-year trend along with the trend line. You can see that my above average performers is, sloping down. That's probably not a good thing. I probably want to take a look at that and see why. Now, one of the things that we could take a look at here is this concept of what we call more modern BI calculations. For example, here I have, this is my company's performance, and the performance spread across all the employees, right? Who's my top performer, who are my bottom performers, where are the average, above average, and all that stuff. Real quick, while I'm here, I'll show you that you can, go ahead and download the data. I know that a lot of people, are always saying, 25,000 is a hard limit. Let me go ahead and open this up. You'll see it here in a second as it downloads. Right, this is just for all the employees that we have. It's about 31,000 in this data set, so you can see we can go way over. If I had 200,000, whatever, that would continue on. And it's not based on, there's no real limit, right? I can show all the columns and download that as well. So that's, I believe that was limitation number 4 or 5. Again, something else that you can do to help people. Now we're taking a look here, right? This is giving my employee performance over a spread, but leveraging level of detail calculations. Now I can highlight one person and say, okay, well, how does that person's subordinates, the people that work for them, how do they compare their performance compared to the company average, right? So I'm taking a look at Casey. You could take a look at the top performance is like almost double what the company average is. That's might be good, but you also see the bottom performance is more than 6 times the company average for bottom performance. So I probably have an issue there, right? I don't have very many average performers. They either seem to be feast or famine. That could be an issue with Casey. It could be an issue with how she's doing the performance, or it could be an actual issue with the employees. Something that has a large variance. Probably I want to go talk to Casey and see what's up. Now, I have a lot of other areas here that I can talk about, but it would take too long to go through everything. So, but I did want to show you some ad hoc capabilities, right? Because one of the things about OTBI and other tools is that getting at the data can be difficult. And so what I wanted to do is go through and show you some ad hoc capability and do a real world example that I was talking to a friend of mine where he takes his HR data and he has certain jobs that are of a certain type that he actually has government data for, and he wants to be able to compare that to the government data to his existing data. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in my workforce events, right, which is, you can see here, it's all user-friendly. not really anything complicated here. It's easy to traverse, right? If I want to take a look up something, for example, these jobs that the guy takes a look for are called OCC jobs, because that's where we can do that. We can say, hey, I want to return all the jobs that are OCC jobs, and then what I want to do is let me go see what I can get from the job here. Maybe I want my job title. We'll go ahead and bring that in, and let's bring in the annual salary. Excellent. Now, I don't like seeing it this way. I'm going to go ahead and flip it, and I'll sort it as well. And that's all good. But you notice here, it's showing me the sum of the annual salary. So that's my entire budget. What I actually want to see is the median. So I can go ahead and change that. Say, okay, now I got my median salary. I can see, okay, what the median salary is for each of these job titles. Again, think of what I just did, right? I applied a filter, I put it in, I got a metric that was predefined, put it in as well, and said, actually, I don't like that metric, I'm going to change it. And again, this is something that all our users can do. And again, puts that power into the user's hands. Let me go ahead here and get this government data, right? It's not in existence house, it's not loaded to any database. I have an Excel sheet that I went out to the government website and I downloaded it. You can see here I downloaded it about last month. It has the median salary by government jobs, by the OCC codes. So I'll go ahead and bring that in. It's going to say, hey, what sheet do you want to bring in? I'm going to bring in the national download sheet. And I'll go back to my visualization. Now you'll notice here I have a whole new data source that said, hey, these are the measures that you have in this, and these are the dimensions that you have. And it says, oh, hey, by the way, I have OCC code. I know that you already have this in your workforce events. Let's go ahead and tie that. So say, yeah, this is how they relate. And I already have the median here. I'm going to go ahead and put it into that same access. And I want dots because that's the way I sort of see it easily. And I'll go ahead and make that different colors so I can see, all right, now I know really quickly what jobs I have internally that exceed the government median and which ones that don't, right? If I want to take this a step further and say, okay, well, this is the median overall, maybe I want to take a look at this by organization name. I'll go ahead and take my organization name and put it into details here. And then I get a dot for each of the organizations that I have. So I can say, okay, well, that's the Stone Park. Here I'm really exceeding it. That's for my human resources organization. Over here looks like my ZXX organization is running it. And I can keep going on and putting on, average lines and box plots and distributions, saying, okay, where are we compared to the average, right? Am I 60%, 80% quartiles? All that stuff. Again, this is enabling your users to take that data that's captive within HCM and make sense of it, give insights, look for things that they want to take a look at, and go forward. Now, lastly here, let's go and take a look here at retention, right? So one of the things that Sid had brought up is everybody's moving towards AI and machine learning, right? So if we take a look at retention here, and we take a look at the retention overview, right? We take all this data about, HCM captures all this data, and you can have all this data about how people leave, when people leave. Sometimes you have reasons for that, right? Was it voluntary or involuntary? Some companies call that regrettable versus non-regrettable. But you take all that data. And what we were able to do is, and this is a problem that we had worked with a construction company where they had a massive amount of turnover. People were just leaving and they were having to rehire that workforce all the time. So one of the things here that we did is we took all that data and put it into a machine learning algorithm, checked the model, tweaked it, added features, tweaked the model, and did so forth until we came up with, what, we felt was a pretty good model for termination probability for that company. And here you see a lot of things, right, that you have available. So, it's a lot of, people look at this and they're like, oh, okay, it's about the AI. Yes, it is about the AI. It's about the machine learning, about being able to figure that out. But there's more to it than just that. Strong modern tools allow you to do things. So, for example, when we put these things through the model, and I would take the data out and I would put it into just a U.S. map, I couldn't tell if New Hampshire was having a problem or not. Connecticut's pretty small. Some of the states, just visually, they're not all the same size. So, I had the ability to build a hex map to say, okay, well, now all the states are the same size. Now I can see where my problems actually are. Whether it's a small state or a big state, I can do that. Right? That's not something a lot of reporting tools can do. We can come over that. Another thing is each of these dots here is an employee, right, that you can click on. Right? If they're above this line, they have an above 50% probability of leaving. If you think about all the data that entails, trying to render that in, older tools, it's just not allowable, right? But again, this is the idea of, I can select from here and go into action, right? You have your termination probabilities here across your performance. Again, we're taking that probability and then tying it to a different subject area. We're saying, okay, well, we know who's going to leave here. Are we going to lose people that we're going to regret losing, or are we okay, right? So, and again, you have the dots of like who's the most likely to leave within that performance band, who's the least likely to leave in those performance band. Up here, you start seeing where you're, this is the machine learning, right, running it through the machine learning algorithm. We found, what regions, what states sort of act in similar fashion, right? So California and South Carolina and Maryland all sort of acted and had the same kind of profile, whereas some states like, New York, North Carolina, Texas were unique enough that they would have their own. But you can start seeing the grouping there, right? And then obviously you have the detail. So before I hand it back, right, to Sid, right, let's, I want to sort of recap what we've seen, right? At the very beginning, I showed you recruitment analytics. I showed you a viz within a viz to allow you to see, what recruitment managers' workload currently was and how they were doing over time, right? So were they trending up? Were they trending down? That would help, right? And then this is a great thing you said. When we went to workforce analytics, I showed you a snapshot of HCM data, which is something that OTBI can't do. And then I combined that with budget data to make it meaningful, right? So it wasn't just, my head count. It was, okay, well, what was my head count versus my budget? You saw that I got to, see that I had an 8% variance. That's important, right? If you think about trying to figure that problem out, it would take an analyst a while, right? Right there, it's just right on the screen. Work performance, again, it was all set up for the ability to see how this person is performing compared to the company average. So I can see if it's a problem or not. It's not just data, it's trying to give you insight. And then further, you also saw me download more than 25,000 rows there, so that if you needed to do a dump or whatever, you could do it there. In compensation, I showed you taking data that was the existing subject area, data source that was built in a user-friendly manner. I was able to take that, build a report, and then take data that wasn't anywhere in any system that I owned, download it and tie it together and do some analysis. And then, lastly, I ended up with, that machine learning where I showed you the strength and importance of being able to build your own visualizations, custom visualizations, that hex map so that I could see, all my states were the same size so I could see where there was or wasn't a problem. And the ability to show and the value of showing a lot of data points in one place so that you can drill down to where you have the information. So, overall, this, helps answer all those problems and that HR managers tend to have. Sid, I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Thank you very much, Ron. That was an excellent demo, and I can tell many of you that whenever we've shown this sort of demo to HR professionals, if you're, for instance, in a team that supports HR, they very much, the business folks get it very quickly in terms of the capabilities that the solution brings to the table. So thanks again, Ron, for an excellent demo. So what is the solution? I'll spend a minute on it, and we got a question on what the back end of the solution is. So this is part of a suite of solutions that KPI has. So the HCM solution you see in red, we have a number of different metrics, 20 metrics, dashboards, and that's constantly expanding and improving as we expand the solution. In general, I'll tell you the solution we provide at no cost as long as KPI is doing the implementation. So you obviously have to pay license costs for Tableau and those kinds of things depending on your BI tool of choice. Same thing with database, whether it's a Snowflake or whatever, but you don't have to pay KPI for the content. And so let's switch to that. So basically what our solution does is that we extract data out of HCM Cloud, and we do this using the approach that Oracle recommends for large extracts, which is using the BI Publisher capability. And then we put those files, and this is all out of the box that we have in our solution. We extract it to the Oracle the cloud content part, download it into a data lake, and that data lake can be, an AWS S3, it can be an Azure Blob, it can be a database, whatever you'd like. And that's where that data lake is where we also combine data from other data sources, and your users can then, query the data lake if they'd like, or they can query, wait till the data gets downstream into the data mart that we have. And so the next stage is the pre-built ETL that we have that will either take the data into a reporting table or into a star schema for different types of really more performance driven. So star schema is really good in Oracle. Reporting table is kind of the preferred data model for a database like Tableau. And then this AI and machine learning. So, why do I need a separate schema for that? So in the example that Ron showed you, for instance, the model for 50 states for the construction company, actually 50 states, if any of you remember your statistics classes, a variable with 50 values is actually very hard to do statistics on. So we actually aggregate that data up to 10 regions, and then the results for a region apply to all the states in that region. So you have to aggregate the data and put it into a machine learning friendly format. So we do that out of the box. And we use R or Python to do with the machine learning libraries that those provide. So again, that's a no-cost solution. You can of course use the Databricks or something else if you'd like. They all ultimately, most of them use the same set of algorithms. And then from a front-end perspective, Ron showed you Tableau. We do support other tools as well when we have customers on a variety of different front-end tools. So we provide out-of-the-box capabilities for the most common tools. Any questions on that? I think it was Sean who was asking that question. And we can follow up with more detail on those. And so basically, I wanted to finalize and sort of talk about what we've seen as the benefits of the solution as we talk to customers. One is that really it removes 100% of the limitations that are there in OTBI. And the result of that is happier HCM business users. The second thing customers tell us is choice of BI tools. You're not kind of locked into the OTBI tool, which again has its advantages, but is also lacking some of the things that one needs. Same thing with ETL tools. So our ETL is SQL based, so we can support pretty much any ETL tool. You also have a choice of BI tools, right? So the insurance company used Oracle BI, the manufacturer used Tableau, right? Choose the tool, your enterprise standard or your best of breed, whatever you want. Same thing with AI. We give you a choice of AI technologies, whether it's R or it's Python. This is a solution we presented to Gartner as part of our our process to become one of the Gartner's recognized data and analytics service providers vendors that we received in June last year. So we showed them the solution at that time, and of course we've got multiple proven customer success stories. And a lot of customers will say, well, gee, why don't I just build all this from scratch? Not easy, I would say. HR is one of the more complex areas with effective dating and all of those things. So this is, we found, is about 60 to 70% cheaper than building a custom solution from scratch. And then lastly, we've really tried to design the solution not only for today's needs, but also for tomorrow's needs. And Gartner would argue it's actually today's needs, meaning the predictive AI capabilities as well. So, we've got that framework in place. You can build additional models, all of those things, but we've got a few out-of-the-box models, as Ron showed you, that you can use to start your AI journey. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Stacy. And Stacy, if you can, I think there's a few questions that have come in. We can start with those. I think I answered Sean's question, hopefully, but Sean, let us know if I did not.
Other than Sean's question, we did have a few come in. I think you may have touched a little on this already, Sid, but what is the cost of the solution and implementation cost?
Sure. So the cost of the solution, as I said, is no cost if you use KPI. Or, we are a services company, so we have these accelerators and a whole suite of accelerators. And the cost can vary. I mean, it depends on the typical. So I'm not going to give a number on this because that's something we can do as a follow-up. And two reasons. One, the two or three key drivers are number of data sources and the level of extensions you've done in HCM Cloud, and the number of subject areas. There's a lot of subject areas. So, for example, if there's a subject area that we don't have out of the box, then we will build that as an example. But the most common areas, recruiting, core HRMS, and payroll, for instance, we have those out of the box.
We also have another question about, is this something shouldn't I just go to my HCM partner for this type of reporting?
Yeah. No, it's a very good question. And, we've heard from customers two things. One is that, HCM implementation partners are excellent at HCM, not something that KPI does. And, the question is, we're an analytics company. And so the question is, if you have a heart issue, do you go to a cardiologist or do you go to your GP? The answer is you go to a cardiologist. So that's how we view it, that this is a specialized skill set. Most HCM implementation partners will have a small analytics practice. They will not attract the best talent because obviously, if you're to use a different analogy, if you are somebody who's an analytics enthusiast, you're going to work for a company like KPI, that's our bread and butter. If you're somebody who loves HCM, then we would tell you should work for an HCM implementation company. So, and then the second thing that we've heard from customers is that, especially if you're doing this as part of an HCM project, we find that it really defocuses the HCM vendor from doing what they need to do to make a really world-class HCM solution. So having a second partner who has the HCM expertise, at least from a data and functional perspective, we don't do configuration work, allows them to de-risk the project to make sure that one vendor isn't trying to manage two parallel streams. You have two vendors that are 100% focused, and we work with all of the large HCM implementation partners. So we're very partner friendly in that regard, and we find customers are very comfortable with that model. Next question, Stacey.
Yes, the next question that we've received is, does this solution work with Power BI?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Showed you in the architecture diagram, and the answer is yes.
If anyone else has any other questions, feel free to send something in the chat, or you could even unmute yourself and ask now. Well, If you find that you have a question at some point after this session, we do have a question, sorry. So there's another question from Sean. So you don't implement HCM?
Correct. No, we do not implement HCM. We know HCM from a data model perspective. We understand HCM very well. We know OTBI reporting so that we can recommend to the customer, hey, you should do this in OTBI versus our solution. But no, we don't typically do HCM implementations.
Okay. So before we close out our session, we want to announce the winner of the Apple Watch, and that is David Chudzik. Congratulations, David. We'll get in touch with you to arrange shipping you that watch. For everyone else, if you have any questions that come up after this presentation, feel free to contact us. You can contact KPI Partners at info@kpipartners.com or call us at 510-818-9480. And again, visit us at our website, KPIPartners.com. We have a product page set up. It's listed at the bottom of this slide. And from all of us, thank you.